So I suppose I should formally call the meeting to order, but here we are. And there are a handful of things to get taken care of somewhat quickly, and then a handful of announcements as well. And then, of course, we're looking forward to another presentation from In the first case, are there any new members who would care to introduce themselves or say hello, perhaps share a bit about what brings them here today? Brilliant, come on up. And visitors, we'll get to you in just a moment as well, but more in the formal announcement period, I would think. But yeah, sure, if you'd like to. Make sure that those online can see you as well.
Oh, sounds good. So, okay. That's good. No, my name is Benjamin Sarr, and I'm pretty new to the Seattle area. I've been teaching in Renton for about the last 6 years, but my wife and I moved to Seattle very recently. So I've been trying to get involved and just making sure that I'm really in contact with other teachers in the community, which is what brings me here today. So I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the meeting.
And then, other than that, the dry thing we need to take care of rather quickly would be approving the minutes from last month's meeting. So, are there any corrections to be made that we want to bring up at the moment, or do people feel like they were well taken? I see nodding, I see no hands, all right. Oh, Grace Ann? We'll take that as a motion to approve. Do we have anybody to second that? Brilliant, thank you, Pam. All in favor of approving the minutes from our September meeting? Aye. Tremendous, it passes overwhelmingly. So at this point, I'd like to open up the floor for any announcements. I know we have a visitor here. If you'd like to come up and say hello and perhaps introduce what brought you here today, I'd love to hear about it.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriela, and I come from the Seattle Youth Symphony Orchestra. I am the manager of one of our programs, which is the Conservatory of Music. And in the conservatory, we have both an academic curriculum and a performance curriculum. In the academic, we take classes that include theory and composition and training. And in the performance side, we have various courses. We have chamber music program, and we have a class that is called collegiate preparatory, and it's just really meant to prepare the students if they're seeking to apply to colleges. So I'm just happy to be here and to connect with you, and thank you, Ryan, for having me here. Very nice to meet you all. I come from the Seattle Youth Symphony Orchestra. Yeah.
Josie's our secretary, beautifully taking notes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to see you. Always nice to have you here. Are there other announcements that people would like to make? Pam, please. That would be nice for those
Can you see me and hear me? I also serve on the board of the Seattle Young Artists Music Festival, which will be in March of 2023. It'll be live. It'll be March 20th and 24th. Registration begins on December 5th until January 17th. Our adjudicators are wonderful. We have Teresa Bogart will be coming from the University of Wyoming, Peter Takash from Oberlin, Justin Kravitz from Northern Colorado, Rochelle McCabe from the University of Oregon, and in the upper strings we have Kang Yuen Tseng from Oberlin, Ann Setzer from Juilliard. In the lower strings we have Darrett Alkins from Oberlin, and the woodwinds will be Nicole Malumbi. Like all organizations, we really need volunteers. And one of the special parts of the volunteering we need is for monitors. The monitors play such an important part. They help to keep the adjudicators on time. They tell them where the bathrooms are. They bring them cups of coffee. And we need your help with that. So I will pass around a list if you can sign up and let us know if you would be available to help us at that time. Thank you so much.
Grace Ann, would you like to come up and share as well?
Good morning. I just wanted to thank all the teachers who signed up for October Festival. We have 10 teachers, or 11 if you count me, participating this year, which is our biggest crowd yet. And I wanted to say thank you to Sharon Van Balen, Karen McCullough, Laura Dean, Tom Lee, Eliza Vysotsky, Sue Chen Poon, Lucy Shaw, Elizabeth Borowski, Rosemary Tamburi, and Laura Garkovsky. And we have 2 full recitals and an incredibly diverse set of programming. So thank you. It's going to be really fun. It's this Sunday, and I'm looking forward to hearing all your students.
Thank you. Excellent program. Perfectly open. And then Karen, would you like to come up and join us?
We're going to have an adult music student recital on Sunday, November 6th at 6:30, and we have room for 4 more performers. It will be at my house, and I do ask proof of vaccination and being boosted, and that everybody take an at-home test before they participate. This is the first time that I've been able to find an accompanist who is willing to work for free. He volunteered. I didn't have to ask. And one of our violin teachers is taking advantage of this. So her violin student is meeting with this, it's a father of a former student who's looking for more experience in the company, but he's quite a good pianist. So if you teach other instruments, or you have a student who wants to play a piano duet and you don't have the other person, I've got somebody to line you up with.
Are there, oh, Suzanne, please. And I'm gonna bop around passing out something for Peter, but just pay me no mind, passing it when I do.
We can never pay Ryan no money. I am here to tell you about Music Artistry Program. I'm going to talk to the people who know already and participate, but I want to tell the people at home and who have never participated how wonderful the MAP is. It's one of the important programs offered to you as a member of SMTA. Not only do your students get to work with nationally and internationally acclaimed teacher pianists, but you get feedback from your teaching from these visiting artists. MAP will take place from March 7th through 11th this year. Registration starts December 1st and runs until January 9th. What you do with MAP is sign up your students to play 2 pieces at a scheduled time with the visiting artist. This year, we're offering both in-person and Zoom options. The details can be found on the WSMTA website under the For Students section. There's a fee, but MAP fee grants are available for teachers to apply on behalf of their students with financial need. MAP provides an incentive for our students to perform well for a highly respected visiting artist. For those students who are interested in playing in Simon Today, in competitions, and for honors recitals at the state conferences, MAP is a mandatory performance for them. This year, we'll be holding MAP at Wedgwood Presbyterian and at a new venue for us, Prospect Congregational on Capitol Hill. Our visiting artists are Hannah Cho from St. Martin's in Olympia. She's been busy this summer playing concerts in Korea and Bulgaria. She's won first prizes in several international competitions throughout her career. We're really lucky to have her. And 2, Dr. Fabio Minchetti, who currently teaches at Washington State University in Pullman. He received his bachelor's and master's in Italy before receiving master's and doctorates from Houghton College and the University of Cincinnati. He's a very active member of MMTA, and he presents at conferences throughout the U.S. I'm looking forward to meeting him. Well, I hope this information excites you so you can take advantage of this program. Ask anyone who's participated, and they will surely tell you that it is extremely worthwhile. Michelle Wong is coming on board to shadow Josie Zoko and I this year, so she can become a co-chair next year. We are looking for another volunteer to join the MAP team. Please get in touch if you might be willing to be part of this fabulous program. Your students get certificates and written comments from these visiting artists. Woo-hoo.
Thank you, Dan. the announcements, the introduction, and actually doing the thing itself. Math is really intimidating to me, but the moment I did it, I will never look back. It's fantastic. It's like a distributed masterclass. It's fun. Anyway, are there any other announcements? Joseph, please. Our illustrious secretary joins us upstage.
Hello, I'm here again to plug the Jazz, Rags, and Blues Festival. It's a new program this year that I am organizing. I'm sure you guys all got Jeffrey's sheet music. Did everybody get that? Anyway, that'd be really amazing to have a local composer represented. So I'm hoping, oh yeah, I should tell you when it is. It's February 12th in person at Prospect Congregational. All ages, levels, instruments are welcome. It just has to be jazz or jazz adjacent. So really looking forward to it this year. Thank you.
One of the new programs that we're trying out thanks to the Chapter of the Year award that we received last year. So I think it's a pretty cool usage of it. Are there any other announcements? In that case, I have two. On the one hand, the first of our 3 online recitals is coming up on November 13th. Signups are currently open. There's a little handout, sort of quarter sheet in the back on that table with our snacks and coffee, if you'd like a little reminder to post on the fridge. Otherwise, signups are available online, and it's a really good time. Relatively casual, but a live performance experience, and they've all been really nice so far. So hopefully you already joined, and if you're not, you're going to, and if not, that's okay too. Otherwise, at the very least, Josie, who was just up here with me, or up here on her own, and I are going to be embarking on a trip to get certified with the MDNA, that is to say, to become nationally certified teachers of music. Sure, clap when we've done it. But in the meantime, the more interesting part of that is we're going to embark on that in the context of a common interest group. For those that don't know, in the context of the SMTA, it's a sort of organizational tool where we get to figure out common interests and then get together in groups. And in this case, we'll be meeting on the first Monday of the month between November and June. So in this case, the first meeting that we'll have is going to be on the 7th of November. And Karen McCullough, our lovely chair of certification, is going to join us for that and give us a little rundown on what goes into it, what to expect, what there is to do, and all the good stuff. So thank you for that in advance, Karen. And then in general, if anybody has any interest in that, please feel free to email me directly, ryan@notesandnumbers.net. Mouthful, I realize. Or just contact really anybody in the SMTA board or SMTA office at gmail.com, and we will get you hooked up with that. So thank you all so much. And now at this point, I have, oh yes. Oh, rats, of course there is. Can I give you the mic?
I think it's the cat. Oh, and I have to hold
What can I do to help?
No, nothing. I'm a mess. Chat. Amanda Snell wants to tell everybody that the Dorothy Woodcock Music Link Teacher Stipend application opens November 1st at 8 a.m. Music Link teachers can apply on the SMTA website for a $600 stipend to help support them in teaching their Music Link students at a reduced rate. Please contact Amanda Snell if you have questions. So, great, thank you.
Well, and that's not even the one I realized that should be made, which is we also have a vibrant social calendar, and in particular this Saturday, there's going to be a spooky haunted pub crawl in the Pike Place Market. It's been advertised by email on our mailing list. It is certainly up in our Facebook group, but if you have the time and the interest, it should be a lot of fun. Thank you very much to Jessica and to Sophia for all the hard work on that. I believe they're grouping around 7:30, but I would have to check an email to be absolutely certain. In any case, so without further ado, unless, okay, brilliant, you guys are set. I'd like to introduce our upcoming presenter. Irish pianist Peter Mack is in great demand as a performer, clinician, convention artist, adjudicator, and teacher. Celebrated for his moving playing and his easy rapport with audiences, he has performed throughout the United States and Europe, as well as in Australia, India, and the former Soviet Union. His students are frequent winners of local, national, and international competitions. And as an active educator, he is current president-elect of the MTNA and VP of Teacher Development for the SMTA. To quote, Mack is one of those lucky ones, born with a completely balanced set of talents. In all capacities, he is indefatigable. So says the Los Angeles Times. Without further ado.
I love the way that you read that out. That is so, and you have to know that when somebody reads the bio of somebody who's about to do something, that bio was written by the person who is just about to do it. So that was lovely. Now, if I sit here, which is where I like to be, can the people online see me? It seems like it's pointed a little bit in the wrong direction. So maybe if we do, does that look better? Yay, okay, very nice. Good, so I hope that you all have a handout. And if you don't, people can come around with them. So this is, this talk is about how to make people sound musical. And we talk about students being naturally musical as if that is something that can never change, you know. Oh, she's so musical, or oh, he's so musical, as if, you know, the gift descended from heaven and that's the end of it. And if you're not musical, you never will be, you poor creature. And I believe that, well, there are natural gifts, both physical and emotional, and so the look at me gene that people really thrive under if they want to be performers. At the same time, I think that a lot of musicality can be taught. An intelligent student who works hard can be just as musical as somebody for whom these things come more naturally. One of the things that's easiest to grasp is what I'm going to talk about today, and that's the art of the phrase. And what this is about is, hi Bonnie, make sure you get a handout. What this is about is that phrases, they often occur in easily recognized patterns. When you recognize the pattern, then there's an interpretation that is suggested. And so you can use this formula or this procedure or this recognition to become more musical or to seem more musical. So what I'm going to do in the lecture then is I'm going to talk about basic phrase types, how to recognize them, and then how to interpret them so that you can sound as musical as possible. So we'll go to the first type. The first type is just the obvious call and response. And in call and response, you have an or antecedent and consequent, or many, many, many other names. And most simple songs, children's songs, are this type. And you have a first phrase that goes up, usually. And then a reply that goes down. Put the microphone down for this. So, how to interpret it? You might like to do a crescendo in the first phrase and a diminuendo in the second phrase. Going to that. So it's very, very straightforward. It's the easiest phrase structure that there is. Hello, goodbye. The second phrase type is what my teacher used to call the 3 tries. In the 3 tries, you try and you don't succeed. You try again, but you still don't succeed. And then you try a 3rd time and you push through and it works. You could call it on your marks, get set, go, or up, up and away, or is this a bird, is this a plane, it's Superman. Short, short, long, 2, 2, 4. These are Satzplan, the Germans call it. And there are many, many ways of describing this. And the characteristics, as I say, there are 3 phrases. The first one is short, the second one is short, and the third one is usually twice as long. So bars 1 to 2, bars 3 to 4, and then bars 5 through 8. You try, you don't succeed, you try, you don't succeed, and you try and you push and it's longer. So, we didn't make it. We didn't make it again. And we made it this time. We didn't make it. Again. And the 3rd time we cheated. It's in all kinds of music, from simple to not so simple. Who recognizes that? Exactly, it is Birthday Party of John Thompson. And if you grew up with John Thompson, you will be familiar with that. And then there is the tragic. And Bonnie, what is that? Yeah, I'm impressed. But what is that one called? Do you remember? Dolly Dear, yes.
You will soon be sleeping.
You will soon be sleeping. Oh, death is coming. In John Thompson, so early. It's also in incredibly complex music at the same time. So this is César Franck. Symphonic Variations. So that's the César Franck Symphonic Variations, a copy of which I noticed is in the free boxes downstairs, if you really want to explore that more. So there we are. You can hear, you try, it doesn't work. You try, it doesn't work. And then you try and it does work. The composer that is associated with this most is probably Beethoven. So if you listen to the Moonlight Sonata, I don't know why I'm playing this thing, because this is not it. Here we go. Did we make it? No, not yet. Did we make it? No, still not. And now we go. And then we made it the 3rd time. Sonata in F major. We didn't get there. Still didn't get there. And we made it that time. Sonata major. Still didn't get there. No. I could go on playing more and more Beethoven sonatas, but you really get the point. You try, it doesn't work. You try, it doesn't work. And then you try and then succeed, and it does work. How do you interpret it? Well, you grow the first phrase, and then you taper off. And then you take just a little bit too much time. And then you grow the second phrase, and you taper off again, and you take a little bit too much time. And then the third time, you've got to be careful not to grow the same amount that you did in the first and second phrases, because this third phrase is going to last for 4 bars, whereas the first 2 were 2 bars each. So you grow, but more gradually, and you get to a climax usually at the third, the downbeat of the third of those 4 bars. So you grow and it doesn't work, you grow and it doesn't work, and then you grow and you push. You don't slow down at the end of bar 6, you keep going so that you can make a longer satisfying phrase. So that's the 3 tries. Then we go to, when I was teaching years ago, I was doing a masterclass in a city not far from here, and it was part of Mack, and I have been doing, and Mack is which we heard Suzanne talk about, which is this most wonderful thing. If you haven't had your students doing Mack, it's really great because they get a tiny lesson there on the spot with the person who is coming. And that's a really great thing. You can, because often you play for somebody and you get written comments later, but the person doesn't say anything to you right there and then. And when the written comments come, that's been a long time ago, and so you forget. But in Mack, you play for the person and you get the comments right away because they teach a tiny little lesson. So I think it's a wonderful program. But I was doing Mack in somewhere, and I had been doing, I'd been teaching all day, and it was a very long day. And I had most of the afternoon had been with this teacher whom I like very much, but I'd been teaching her students, and I'd been talking about the 3 tries. And usually the analogy when I teach 3 tries is I say, lawnmower and the grass, and so with a lawnmower you go ram, bam, 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 and it doesn't work, and ram, bam, 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 and it doesn't work, and then ram, bam, 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 and it works, and it's great. And so I said to the student, "Is there grass at your house?" And she said, "Yes." And this is not the way you think this is going, but there is grass. And I said, "Who mows the grass?" And she was obviously a child of privilege. And so she said, "A man." And so I said, "Have you ever heard the man starting up the lawnmower?" And she said, "No." So this wasn't going to work. And as I say, it was the end of a long day, and I'm just sort of up there going, what can I think of? And the teacher, she said, "So have you ever flushed the toilet and it doesn't go down?" And she said, "Yes." And then you try again and it still doesn't go down, and still gets, and then you try a third time and it really goes rah, 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 rah. And I mean, no matter how rich you are, there are certain experiences that unite us as human beings. Okay, so the third type of phrase structure is happy birthday phrasing. So, is there anyone whose birthday is today? Is there anyone whose birthday has been very recently, like on October the 10th? Pam, your birthday was on October the 10th. Let's sing happy birthday to Pam. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Pam. Happy birthday to you. Yay, it's Pam's birthday. Pam, how many phrases are in happy birthday? For there are 4 phrases, yes. Which is the most important?
One with my name in it.
And there is no arguing with that. And which one is that?
The third.
Yeah, that's right. And so in happy birthday phrasing, you remember in the 3 tries we had short, short, long, unequal phrases. In happy birthday phrasing, we have 4 equal phrases. And you go phrase 1, and then phrase 2, and then phrase 3, and then phrase 4. And so happy birthday is a great example, but let's all count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly, that's how it goes. And if we had the phrasing, the 3 tries being Beethoven phrasing, the happy birthday phrasing, 4 equal phrases, that is very much Bach phrasing. If you think about the preludes, for example, from the Well-Tempered Clavier, the very first one, so we have chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, and chord 4. And the harmony just bears that out. Jeffrey.
I have a question because it's been a while since I looked at my notes from this lesson. If phrase 3 is your high point,
Yes.
where's the high point of phrase 3? Is it the downbeat? Is it the high note? Or does it depend?
Well, if you think about, so Jeff's question, in case you didn't hear, was if phrase 3 is the high point, is the loudest one, where is the high point? Where is the focus of that third phrase? And I would say that in general, when you have a phrase, the phrase should start softly, grow a little bit, and then come away again. So I would say that the phrase is at the high point of phrase 3 is going to be about 2/3 of the way through that third phrase. If you listen to what we did, we had this is 1, and then 2. So not. So that's just in that example. If you think about so it comes more or less towards the end of the phrase. Going back to the Bach preludes, that was number 1. That's prelude number 2 from the Well-Tempered Clavier. And if you go through the Well-Tempered Clavier, E flat minor, you can hear the harmony is basically doing the work for us. And if you think about harmonic shaping, dissonance louder than consonance. If you're in the home key, away from the home key, louder than the home key. So a dominant is going to be louder than a tonic. So that's the Bach. Obviously I like the Bach example very much. So you'll notice that the way that I play Bach, it's very defined and it's very idiosyncratic and it's quite romantic. I always say when students are doing a Bach competition, that the most important thing when they are preparing is that they remember that they have to be lucky. Because if you are lucky, the way that you interpret Bach will be the same as the way that the person who is judging the competition likes Bach to be heard. And I know of no composer where there is a greater variety of strongly held opinions.
Mozart, sometimes Mozart.
Mozart's just,
No matter what we do.
but Mozart is just too difficult. You know, Mozart is the most difficult composer that ever was. Because, well, I'm getting excited. But back to Bach, I had, years ago, I had a student who he was in the state competition of MTNA, which he won, which was lovely, but he played Little Bach Allemande. And surprisingly, that's actually 3 tries, if you think, because we didn't make it. We didn't make it again. And we made it that 3rd time. But, so he did it, and you could hear that we were very careful, because we did just a little bit of slowing down, but not too much. But we did just a little bit of shaping, but not too much. And so everything was, and we voiced very carefully, so we do it right hand, left hand, right. So it was very considered. The first judge said, this was far too romantic. Okay. The second judge, the three judges in the regional competition, the second judge said, this should have been much more expressive. And the third judge said, while I appreciate the voicings that you chose, I would have chosen different voices. So it was too romantic, not romantic enough, and the voicing was wrong. All 3 judges agreed that the Bach was done badly, but they did not agree as to what needed to be done to make it better. So that's just Bach. You play Bach, you have to be lucky above all else. But if we talk not only about Bach, Chopin, E minor prelude. Here's the 3rd. To repeat the phrase, to repeat the phrases. That's a piece that I think of as a heartbeat piece. Whenever you have that sound, I think that sound has special magic, because I believe that it takes us back to before we were born. Because when we're in the womb, we hear our mother's heartbeat for months. Our ears work long before we're born. And so we hear a regular boom, 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 boom. So I think when you play a piece like that, and there are lots of pieces with that kind of pulsating accompaniment, they have special power because they bring us all back to before we were born. I also think that the sea does the same thing, because we hear swooshing of amniotic fluids for a very, very long time. And when we hear the sea, even if we don't realize it, we are transported back. I had the mother actually the mother of the boy who did this. And she was a genius. I mean, she was one of those people who made a vast amount of money sitting in front of 4 or 5 different computer screens, going day trading at the same time. She was just incredibly, incredibly smart. And she said, oh yeah, I remember when I was born, when I was teaching him, and I was, you do? And she said, yes. And I said, what was it like? She said, it was horrible. And I said, why? And she said, because I was lovely and warm, and suddenly I was out in this cold, and I did not like it at all. And For anyone else, I would not probably have believed them, but she was such a smart, special person that I'm like, yeah, I could imagine that you would remember that. Anyway, so do we have other examples? Yes, let's bring things back. So there we have phrase 1, phrase 2, phrase 3, phrase 4. There's a variant of this, which is a limerick. Now, if you know, I'm from Ireland. Limerick is a big town in Ireland, but the limerick poem, and the limerick poem is a 5-line poem, and it goes ba-diddle-diddle-diddle, ba-diddle-diddle-diddle, ba-diddle-diddle, ba-diddle-diddle, ba-diddle-diddle-diddle. So it's long, short, long. Even though Limerick is a town in Ireland, it was invented by an English poet and an English writer called Edward Lear. And so he wrote limericks and he illustrated them charmingly, and that's so you look for Edward Lear, L-E-A-R, and those are, and he invented limericks. But musically, we've been doing limericks for a very, very long time. She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes long. She'll be coming around the mountain long. She'll be coming around the mountain, coming around the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain when she goes long, short, long. Remember we did Beethoven's symphony earlier? That's long. That's long. Short. Long again. So that's long, short, long, limerick form. How do you do it? Make sure that you break in between the two shorts and don't rush them together so that we understand what is happening. I think that I really like performances where the student or where the person performing understands the structure and takes a little bit of time to show us what the structure is. And so yesterday I had a student play this. I mean, you know, the sound was very good and the energy was certainly there. but Jamie said I was too mean, but it's a student I like very much and I hope she likes me. I said that she was like a rat and that a cat was running after her. You know how rats, they just go like that. And so we went, and that's the end of that phrase. So you want to show the phrase structure by just taking a little bit of time and breathing just a little bit. In the fastest music, you still want to do this. And in order to do this, the metronome is not your friend. Because she had been practicing with the metronome because there are places where she'd gone faster, where she'd gone slow. She'd been practicing with the metronome. And by golly, she was able to keep with the metronome. But if you keep with the metronome, they say, yeah, that was mechanical. Because a metronome, of course, is mechanical. And if you say to somebody, I thought your performance was very mechanical, you are not actually giving the compliment that you might think that you are giving. Okay, so other things, so if we recap, we have question and answer, we have short, long, or the 3 tries, we have happy birthday, where it's 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then we have the version of the happy birthday, where it's long, short, long. So those are the main phrase structures that I look for. What are other things to consider? Well, you remember how I played the start of the Moonlight Sonata? Let's go back to that. And what I want you to do is, I want you to clap every time the harmony changes. So every time you hear a different harmony, you're going to clap. Okay? Let's just practice clapping to make sure everybody is ready to clap. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then you're all going to clap. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Excellent. So here we go. You're going to clap on the first one, which starts now. Yes? Good. Let's do that again. Good. And so you can hear that as the harmony, the rate of harmony increases, the rate of harmonic change increases. We feel that we are going towards something that is special, and that we come to rest. And we're like, oh, okay, that was a thing. That was something, that was a process that made us feel that, that we understood what was happening. That's Beethoven. Beethoven likes to do that a lot. We already said that Beethoven likes to do the 3 tries, but Beethoven likes to do that. So the high E's, there was one, wait, one, ba, 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 ba. That's from the Waldstein. I don't know if anyone here has lived in Seattle long enough to remember a bar called the Ritz. The Ritz was a bar on Capitol Hill, and it had a pianist called Marge. And Marge's big thing that she did was she did this. And suddenly it became night and day. And I remember the first time that I heard that, I just about fell out of my seat in wonder. Anyway, now, so I have been telling you, this is how these phrases are, okay? It's sort of like, oh, this phrase is this, or this phrase structure is this phrase structure is this. It's sort of like, come down and I impart the information, and there is no choice. But that's completely wrong, because very often, there are many different ways in which you can implement something. And so you can, for example, if you think about the national anthem. That's the first phrase. That's the second phrase. Third phrase. So there's no doubt about that. It's very clear, isn't it? Except it could be 3 tries if you like. So, do you think that it sounds better if you do 4 individual phrases? Do you think that it sounds better if you have the short phrase, and then the third phrase pushes over? And the answer is yes. Because some people will say, I like 4 individual phrases, and other people will say, I like the suite. And that's one of the lovely things about interpreting music is that there is, I won't say there is no absolute, you must do it this way, but there's lots of choice that we have. And what I really like to hear is, first off, that a student is aware of making choices. And then which choice they choose, I don't mind about that so much because I'm just so happy that they are doing something themselves. Remember we started with On Top of Old Smoky. And we said it was question and answer. But maybe it's so maybe it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And which is right? Well, they're both nice. It doesn't really matter. The Bach 2-part invention number 1. Listen to this now. This is the second line. So that's obviously 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's very clear, right? Oh, and that is the opening phrase upside down. So it's very, very clear. When I was, I would say I was in my 40s when someone explained that to me. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. But so clearly that's the 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you listen to the left hand, it's the 3 drums that we have. So my dog has ticks, my dog has fleas, my dog has every known disease. So, but which one do you like? Do you want the top one or do you want the bottom one? And you may say, well, the top one has obviously reference to the main theme, so it's the most important. But that's the first 4 notes of the theme augmented. So you can't discount that because it is not motivically relevant, because of course it is, it's the augmentation of it. So there's an equally lovely choice to be made. So which choice do you make? Well, if you say we've had a lot of right hand, well, no, we've had conversation, but you say, I always like to bring out the left hand because it doesn't usually get as much, so it's more contrasty. Or you say, no, you can't deny the inversion of the main theme, so you have to, and it's which one do you like? It really doesn't matter. In general, if you're doing Baroque phrasing, if there's a scale, what I like to do is if there's a scale, I like to join it. If there's a gap, I like to have a little time taken there, so or non-legato, so that we understand that. However, so the left hand will be and then change of direction. So the change of direction, the gap, means that you're aware of that distance and you treat it with a little bit of respect. So which flavor of ice cream is best? Is it chocolate? Is it strawberry? Who knows? It's one of those things. What do you want to do? Educate yourself and then you make your decision. And that's many, many years ago, I taught a masterclass in Poland, in Warsaw, and it was terrifying because it was terrifying for me, because of the 3 students, 2 of them played Chopin, and the third one, or the middle one played Bach. And the first one, she played the first 6 preludes by Chopin extraordinarily beautifully. And I said, you might like to do this, you might like to do that, you might like to do here. Have you thought about doing this, like whatever? And her teacher was she didn't speak English. Her teacher was translating for her. And so I would say, and then the teacher would say, yeah. And I don't quite know what the teacher said, but like again, or louder, or bad. But anyway, so she played, and I'm convinced there was no difference by the way she played at the end of the masterclass than she did at the start of that. But she played very beautifully, so just fine. The second one, we had a lovely time because she did Bach. And so I said, you might like to do the left hand, you might like to, and she did it, it was just great. And then the third one, she played the barcarolle, and she was in tears. She was in tears before she had started, and then she played, and she was in tears, and she played afterwards. And whatever I said, it didn't really matter. She just cried through the whole rest, because I was the first non-Polish person that she had ever played for. And if Polish teachers are scary, then the Gordon, who came from the US, was obviously going to be even scarier. So that was, but I said to the friend who had brought me there, I said, what did you think of the masterclass? And she said, it was very American. And I said, what do you mean? I said, well, you said 20 nice things, and then you said 1 mean thing, and then you said 20 nice things. And she said, in Poland, we do it the other way around. Except we don't do the 1 nice thing. And then she said, and also, when you were teaching them, you gave them a choice. You said you might like to do this, or you might like to do that. You said, that's the first time that they've ever been given a choice in their lives. They have, because I think of the great European teaching as you teach the way your teacher taught you, and you teach the pieces that your teacher taught you, and that's what you teach. And usually your teacher was fabulous, and it's a beautiful, beautiful interpretation, and they all come out sounding wonderful, except they all come out sounding exactly the same. And so if I teach, I hope that if my students I try not to have my students play the same piece because at the same time, but if they do, I hope that they sound very different, because I don't want them to sound like me, because I have cornered that market. So I want them to sound like them, and that's just going to be better. Okay. So have we got other examples from the literature? Sure. This is obviously what? I think it's 3 tries, and it's reinforced. That's the first phrase. That's the second phrase. And that's the Mozart minuet in F, which he wrote before he was born. And if you think about the minuet in G, that could be 3 tries. And then that could be short loud, or it could be first. So it could be limerick. Loud, loud, short, short, loud. And which is it? Yeah, exactly. So, let me think. I'm going to give you a go to sort of see what you think. And I'll give you some that you can identify and see what you think they are. Three tries, I think, yes. So we did. It didn't make it. Still didn't make it. And the third time it did make it. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Say that again. Yes. Oh, I suppose it is too. Yes. Well, there we are. And if you count how many there are, that just never works. I found, you stand there, but if you think of it, if you think of it as a waltz that continues, I'll do it better. Anyway, so you have the idea that if you do a waltz, they are less likely to mess up the number because they have the pulse going. So that's that idea. So I wrote down these pieces, and suddenly I'm thinking, Bach, music from Anna Magdalena. How does that go? But I just realized good, so we have. So what is that? That's probably short, long, 3 tries. The secret of playing this if you put your thumb, then that does the octave jump. So you don't have to worry about that, because the difficulty is if you I have my 5th finger on the left hand and my thumb on the right hand, and suddenly I have to jump out with 2 hands. But if you put your thumb on the D, the low D first, then you've got the octave jump takes care of that, and you can just concentrate on the right hand. Anyway, that's the music from Anna Magdalena. What's that? Limerick, I think it is. Short. Does anyone know what that piece is? It's circus theme, or it's Here Come the Clowns. It's by Fusik, and it's the entrance of the gladiators. Which is very strange, because I don't think of gladiators as being dressed like clowns at all. But, oh. I'll do just a minute. Limerick, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 3 tries. Because listen, if it's limerick, short. Long. Seems pretty convincing, right? Or 3 tries. Short. Short. Obviously 3 tries. Or 1, 2. Happy birthday, Pam. It works beautifully in all of them. I mean, I think each one of them is very convincing. So fortunately, it comes back a whole bunch of times. So you could do it differently each time. You know, it doesn't, you just, and especially just because you choose once the first time, you can do something else the second time. That works equally well. How do you, in a big, long piece, how do you figure out what the structure is? This is Rachmaninoff Prelude in D. That's nice, it's a page long, but what was it? Well, it was. So clearly in that interpretation, it's a limerick, right? Long, long, short, short, long. How would you find that out if you play an entire page with a whole bunch of other notes? Well, you take the melody out and you do it way fast. And then it's much clearer what it is. And then you put it back, having written in your score what you want the phrasing to be. And then that keeps you going through the long, long page with all those notes. So, individual phrases then. I think you've noticed that every phrase must have a point. You get to the point. You have that there is one note that you have decided this is the note of the phrase, the most important note. I don't know if you remember Bob Pager. Bob Pager was here at in Washington State. He's an East Side teacher. And he studied with me, and he studied with me even though he was maybe 30 years older than me, but he studied with me because he wanted to be certified. And for certification at that time in Washington State, you had to study with a master teacher. And as he said, his master teachers were Morton Estrom and Francis Clark, and they were unfortunately dead. And so he studied with me instead, and he was fabulous. He had he had real virtuoso technique, and so it was sort of he could just oh my God, how do you do that? But he did that Chopin Nocturne with me, and there was a plus over one note in every phrase. And I would say, what's that plus for? Because it looked like and, except it was on a straw bead, and it was written over where the fingering is usually written. And he said, oh, Frances Clark had me do that she would go to, I would go through every phrase, and she would say, which is the most important note, which is the direction note of that phrase, and then you put a plus over it. And I thought that was an extremely lovely and wonderful thing to do, because where you put the plus is not quite as important, but that you put the plus is very, very important. And as you can see from my gluttony with the scores out in the front, I love music, and I love buying music, and I love buying weird music. And when I go to a new place, I go there and I see if there's a secondhand music store, and then I buy what I can. And there's a music store in London called Academy Music. And if you happen to be changing planes in London, if you have to, try and get like an 8-hour window, because then you can go from Paddington, or from the airport into Paddington, which is very close to Academy Music, which is the second-hand music store. And you go down the stairs, and they have boxes and boxes of music that they have bought from the States, of good musicians that they give away for virtually no money. And I got a lot of things from the estate of a teacher called Yonty Solomon. And Yonty Solomon was a very famous teacher in London in like the 60s. And he had this big mansion in Belgravia, and his students used to live there. And he would bang on their door at 2 o'clock in the morning. He says, "Time for your lesson." And they would have to get out of bed and go down, because he was one of those, geniuses who runs on caffeine, or I don't know what. You had to do it now, and you got a great deal out of it, but you didn't get as much sleep as you would have if you were studying with a less committed teacher. Anyway, so his music, I got a bunch of his music. And what was interesting is that in his music, there was one thing written, "The point," was written in every piece, and in beautifully stylish handwriting, wonderful handwriting. But the point for him was, there is one place in every piece that is the place that you go to, that is the place that makes more importance, that is more significant, that is the special place when you do it. That's the point. And then so you get to the point, and then you come away from it. And if you have decided that, that makes your performance even more moving and even more special. And people do it naturally, even if they don't think about it. So Michelle, you played extraordinarily beautifully. And in both of your pieces, I was listening for a point which you reached. Had you been thinking about doing that?
Yes, I went through many renditions of each phrase. And every performance I do a little bit differently. Just to kind of, for me, to make it interesting for me in every performance, but I think it also makes a difference in how the piece is shaped overall.
Yeah, I thought you played extremely beautifully, and I noticed that you had done that, and I thought, I wonder if she is naturally gifted, and if she has made a conscious choice to do what you did so wonderfully. And I think that something that you just said is in a way the crux of this talk, which is that our job is to give options to students, and that when students have options, that maybe they feel that today they're going to do it this way, and tomorrow, when you're in front of a completely different audience, on a different piano, in a different space, in a different everything, you can do it a different way, and you just decide what it is that you want to do because you have options, because you are prepared, because you are thinking, because you are musical, because you have understood the art of the phrase. And that would be a perfect place to end, except I actually want to go on and do a little bit more. And that is that when I teach the individual phrases, I say that you can be a certain person. And if you are that person, then you will choose the phrase in a different way. If you are a singer, obviously the high note is the note that you want to go to. And when you go, to the high note, you take time to go up there and you stay up there because you are a singer. Or if you're an architect, you wear all black clothes, you're very, very skinny, you have these glasses that go like that, and you believe in the magic proportions, and 2/3, 1/3, all our faces are so incredibly beautiful because we have the ideal proportions that everything is in 2/3, that this is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. We're just so special. But so for an architect, it's 2/3 of the way through the phrase. That's about 2/3 of the way through the phrase. And so the singer is going, I don't think so. And the architect is going, yes, 2/3 of the way, And if you're thinking of the singer as a woman and the architect as a man, maybe you should rethink, because it does not have to be that way. And now we have a dancer. That's the strong beat. And so the dance is going to be one, because the rhythm is the most important thing, and the singer is going, yes, that's right, and the dancer is going, and the architect is going, I don't think so. And then the composer, and I need two hands for the composer is listening for dissonance, because they are fascinated by the creation of the chords. No, that's not it. Dissonance going on. And so now the composer, she's going, aha, you see, I've gone for dissonance. And the architect is going, yes, you see 2/3 of the way, and the dissonances, and the dancer and the singer are going, no, it's the high notes or the strong beats or whatever. And which is the right one to do? Well, you have choices. And so if you have choices, you can do whatever you want to do. Finishing up, crescendo does not disturb the natural way that the phrase should sound. And I'll explain this. I want you to say Seattle music teachers, and I'm going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, and you will whisper Seattle music teachers, okay? 1, 2, 3. Lovely. Now you're going to do it a little bit louder. 1, 2, 3.
Seattle music teachers.
Good. Now you're going to do it really quite loudly. 1, 2, 3.
Seattle music teachers.
And now you're going to yell. 1, 2, 3.
Seattle music teachers.
Excellent. So when we said that, it was we got louder each time, right? So if we did those 4 phrases one at a time, that would have been a real crescendo, yes? But nobody in this room said Seattle music teacher. Nobody got louder and went Seattle. It was always Seattle, 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 down, because crescendo does not trump or does not cause you to change the way that the phrase is shaped. The phrase is shaped a beautiful way, and you must continue to do that even as you crescendo. And so you will have students who they see the word crescendo, and they think that means that every note that follows the word crescendo needs to be louder than the one before. But as we just showed Seattle music teachers, that does not sound musical. You still keep the phrase shape even as you are doing the crescendo. Is there anything else that I want to say? I have a student who is a poet, and I was talking about stressing words in a sentence, stressing notes in a phrase, and she said, oh, I didn't say you stole that money, which is apparently a famous example of how inflection changes meaning. So if I say, I didn't say you stole that money, Obviously, somebody else said, but I didn't say it. I didn't say you stole that money. That's just a denial. I didn't say it. I didn't say you stole that money. You know what I was thinking. I didn't say you stole that money, you know, it was somebody else who I said stole that money, not you. I didn't say you stole that money, but the other money, I didn't say you stole that money. Where did those jewels come from? And so it's no wonder English is just such a difficult language to teach and to learn. Because how do you, if you read that sentence, there's no way you can understand what the person is meaning. You have to hear it and then you have to appreciate what that is. I've talked already about how we're going to a point, and if you accelerate a little bit as you go to the point, that's a very nice thing. The difficulty with an acceleration is long notes. I very, very, very rarely have a student who waits too long on long notes. It just doesn't happen. But if I had $1 for every time a student cut a long note short, well, I have, don't I? Because that's what lessons are for. Ingrid Clarefield, who was this wonderful teacher in New Jersey, she said one of my favorite genius things ever, which is she was giving a master class and the student played something and the student cut their long notes short. And she said, if you cut long notes short, everybody says you have no sense of rhythm. If you do it absolutely according to the beat, they say mechanical. If you wait just a little bit too long, everyone says, how amusing. And every one of my students can say that story over and over and over and over again, but they will still cut long notes short and will still have those dollars coming into my account. I think probably that is enough that we have gone through the art of the phrase. Are there questions? Does anyone have questions or comments, or this makes you think of something? Yes.
A short comment and a question. First of all, chocolate, I don't even know why you asked. Chocolate ice cream.
That was you said, first of all, chocolate, where you have the ice cream. Remember, it was the choices were chocolate or strawberry. So who here would vote for chocolate? Put your hands up if you vote for chocolate. And then who here would vote for strawberry? Put your hands up if you vote for strawberry. So the strawberry people, I'd say it's two chocolates to every strawberry, so it's 2 to 1. But the strawberries are very committed. So anyway, back to you, chocolate and strawberry. Yes.
But they're wrong. But the question,
You're going to say that Bach was too romantic, aren't you?
Do you use these same kinds of analogies when you're teaching the larger structure of the piece, or is that a different talk?
The question is, do I use these analogies when I'm teaching the larger structure of the piece? I talk about the dividing the piece into sections and the sections getting to the point. And I do the micro phrases, the small phrase structures that we've done here, and tell them to look for those patterns. But I don't know that the 3 tries can apply to a big structure. So the exposition is the first try, the development is the second try, and then the recapitulation and coda is the third try. Although now that I say that, it's like, oh, maybe that would in fact work. Is that the question that you are asking?
Yeah, just how do you primarily use this just to deal with the smaller parts of the piece, or do you use them in a larger scale as well?
Until you asked the question, it had never occurred to me to think of them on a larger scale. So I guess the answer to that is that I use them on a small scale when each phrase happens in the smaller sections. Yeah, but I like the idea of thinking about the large scale. Yeah.
present this as music is so diverse and so interpretive friendly and so such a vehicle for self-discovery, self-exploration, Mother Nature, metaphysics, because there's just so much involved. So I also want to ask you to comment on the problematic presence of competitions in our world in relation to presenting students with all these options.
Yeah.
Can you make a comment on that?
Good, so that's a very good question, which is, or point that you raise, which is that in competitions, if you are preparing somebody for competitions, they will meet judges who are inflexible. And so a judge will say, this is wrong. So for example, the boy who played Bach, the three judges said that his Bach was wrong. So I do prepare them, especially when playing Bach, or when playing. I say it's quite possible that a judge will not like that. And I will say to a student often, if they are doing it in a very individual and personal and eccentric way, I will say, you are running the risk that a judge will just not like what you do. Do you think it is worth running that risk to do what you do in a competition? And the student almost always will answer yes, because the student wants to do. And then if the judge does not like what they do, then we have already prepared it, and we have. But when you do a competition, you are submitting yourself to being judged according to somebody's individual taste. And it is a very rare judge who will say, I would have done things completely differently, but I loved what you did. Judges will almost always say, you did this wrong. And that's just part of being a bad judge. Because I think just as our students should be open to interpretation, I think that as judges, we also should be open to interpretation. So that even if I think I hated what you did, but I thought it was wonderful, that I think that sentence should be said. Well, maybe not, I hated what you did. But I found that it has never occurred to me to do the piece in this way before, and I really enjoyed the fact that you brought something new to it. So, but yes, some people say you should not enter competitions and competition should be bad because of this. Because it's not clear-cut, it's not a race. You cannot say definitively that so-and-so is the winner. I love competitions, and I have my students do them a great deal because, for a bunch of reasons. But the main reason is that they are a huge motivating factor among the students that I teach. And so the students and then it sort of tends to self-select because my students do competitions and do well in competitions. The parents come to me because they want their child to do competitions. So that's the kind of student that I will get. But I also like competitions because when they go to competitions and they stick around and they hear the other people, they can hear how beautifully someone else does something. And they can hear music that they've never heard before. And they can see different ways of being at the piano. And they get the feeling that I am not the only one who cares about this. Because I think that's a very, very great risk that we run, which is that they go to their school and they're the only one who's into classical music that learned. Or not just classic, into music. And so it shows them that there's a community of people that they might not meet every day, but that certainly exists. And having said that, you said that you talked about Mozart, Wani. I don't have my students do Mozart in competitions, simply because Mozart, I have found that judges, perhaps I teach Mozart badly, although I don't believe that I do, but that judges are more unforgiving with Mozart than with any other composer. And I think, and so I feel the classical period is the period that shows you up more than any other. I love my students to do gigantic modern works because you can, if you put Messing and Beauregard in front of a judge, you've scared that judge. But if you put Mozart Sonata in F in front of that judge is ready, up with their pen, ready to pick it apart because they feel comfortable doing that. And so my students, they will sometimes do Mozart concertos, but Mozart, I find, just is the minefield in competitions. And so, in a sense, competitions have changed the way that I teach it negatively because of that. Okay, good.
I just want to say one little thing.
Oh, yes.
Fabulous here. I agree with every word. I would just like to also say that it's never too early to teach what you're teaching. I mean, when I have students and they can play 2 notes, maybe let them glide between those 2 notes. And when they play 3 notes, then we'll go to the 3rd note. So at the very, very, very beginning, you can do this.
Yes, so Bonnie just said.
Don't wait till they get to a certain level, now I'm gonna teach them phrasing.
Bonnie, just for those of you who are watching and maybe you did not hear, Bonnie just said that you can start doing this right at the start. Teaching this, and I think you're absolutely right, that it's teaching music and teaching making things beautiful and teaching that a phrase grows and comes away right from the very start. And also, when people are learning pieces, you want them to learn them with the music in them, rather than you've learned the notes and now let's put the music in afterwards, because it never sticks. And when they're nervous, they revert back to the way that they learned it because they forget everything except the very early things. So I absolutely agree that you teach early. This is part of teaching right from the very start. And maybe that's a lovely place to end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was fantastic. Obviously, we all agree. And unless anybody disagrees and has something to bring up, I think we can adjourn this meeting. There's still music out in the lobby if you want to go thumb through. There's still coffee and there's a lovely snacks. Otherwise, it's lovely to see each and every one.